SDTC is proud of the work that was done to expand our reach.
The minister is going to flip out when he hears the stuff, and he's going to want an extreme reaction, like shut it all down.
Welcome back to Northern Perspective, everyone. I'm Cypher.
And I'm Fox.
If you haven't watched part 1 of this series, we encourage you to do so in order to have the context for what we are discussing in this video. You can find the link to part 1 in the description.
In June of 2023, Doug McConaughey, who is Chief Financial Officer and Assistant Deputy Minister of the Department of Innovation, Science and Economic Development, or ISED, met with the SDTC whistleblowers to provide them an update on the third-party investigation that was being led by a third-party audit firm, Raymond Chabot Grant Thornton, or RCGT. During this meeting, he informed them that the investigation had found that significant amounts of government funding was being granted outside of the established rules of the SDTC.
More than 9 months after the initial complaint was filed by the whistleblowers, they were becoming impatient and frustrated as to how long this process was taking. It was around that time that the relationship between the government and the whistleblower began to deteriorate. The latter were beginning to find the investigative process that had been going on since the start of the year was taking too long, exposing members of the group still at SDTC to potential reprisals. As time went on and the investigation proceeded, the employees that remained at SDTC were operating effectively undercover. They were operating and doing their jobs knowing that at any minute they could be discovered as the employees that were ratting out their executive team and potentially their direct managers.
At this point, the whistleblowers had started to record phone calls. In an interview, one of the members of the whistleblower group said a decision was made from the start to record conversations with the government. One of their fears when ISED took charge of the file was that the department would hesitate to get to the bottom of things because the target of the probe was funded and supervised by ISED. Quote, "This was our insurance policy," end quote, said a whistleblower. On August 25th, 2023, the whistleblowers recorded the phone call that would eventually be leaked to the media.
The very preliminary findings of the fact-finding exercise is that there is smoke around the vast majority of the allegations. We said we would believe you. Now there's enough evidence to say that we really do believe you, and that means that that the government is going to have to take action. There's a lot of sloppiness and laziness. There is some outright incompetence. The situation is just kind of untenable at this point. I think the minister is going to flip out when he hears the stuff, and he's going to want an extreme reaction, like shut it all down. It's unlikely that certain members of the board or the entire board and executive are going to be able to continue to serve. Like, they've kind of lost the confidence. So really the discussion will be the mechanisms for getting them out. First of all, we need to have control of the board, and in order to actually have a plurality of votes if we want to go after the executive. So that's the stuff where kind of the machinations are figuring out right now. But the report implicates the board in terrible ways, by not following process, by not following the COI regime, by not being prudent fiduciaries. It's just a board failure altogether.
As a result of the RCGT report, the government determines that the SDTC is in default of its agreement with the Department of Innovation, Science and Economic Development. However, the CEO, Chair, and Board of Directors of the SDTC continue to operate with no concern of any wrongdoing at all as they held their annual public meeting on September 26, 2023.
It starts here.
Good morning and welcome. Bienvenue. I'm Annette Verschuren, Chair of SDTC's Board of Directors. In the spirit of reconciliation, on behalf of SDTC and its board of directors, I would like to reaffirm our commitment to building a culture of mutual respect, equity, and inclusion. As an entrepreneur, I am proud to be here today to celebrate the incredible Canadians creating groundbreaking innovations, making the future brighter for the planet and for the people in their communities. People in place are central to SDTC's mandate. They are the foundation upon which businesses are built and the inspiration for entrepreneurs to do extraordinary things. As we look at the past year, SDTC is proud of the work that was done to expand our reach.
A commitment to building a culture of mutual respect, equity, and inclusion. Remember those words, everyone. Remember these words as well. SDTC is proud of the work that was done to expand our reach.
Exactly 1 week after SDTC Chair Annette Versturen told everyone how proud she was of the work of the SDTC in the last year, the third-party investigative audit by RCGT was released. In their report, just released by the government, investigators raised questions about SDTC's decision to distribute $38 million in emergency quote-unquote relief payments in 2020 and 2021 during the COVID-19 pandemic to companies with which it had previous funding agreements. According to the report, these contributions, quote, did not appear to be consistent with the requirements, end quote, of SDTC's contribution agreement with the government, pointing out, quote, the payments do not require project cost eligibility or monitoring and reporting, end quote. One of the funding recipients also, quote, appeared to be ineligible, end quote, to receive an amount of $280,000, said the report. The report also raises questions about the conflict of interest policy within the SDTC, stating it was, quote, inconsistently applied, end quote. The report cited a declaration of a conflict of interest between SDTC's chief executive officer and an external reviewer that was, quote, backdated under the direction of the corporation's external legal counsel, end quote. In another portion of the report, investigators found that the two streams of funding created by SDTC, worth over $20 million, appear to quote-unquote contravene or, quote, not meet the main goal, end quote, of its agreement with the government.
In reaction to the report, the SDTC posted a statement on their website, Ottawa. SDTC has received the fact-finding exercise report commissioned by Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada and completed by Raymond Chabot Grant Thornton. We note the report found no clear evidence of wrongdoing or misconduct at SDTC and indicated that no further investigation is merited. The SDTC Board of Directors and leadership team are carefully reviewing the report and are taking action to implement the recommendations as quickly as possible to minimize disruption to Canada's sustainable innovation ecosystem. Just to remind everybody that the report contained terms such as, quote, contravene, ineligible, and that conflict of interest policy was inconsistently applied. Now, despite the fact that the SDTC states there was no wrongdoing, they issued the last part of their statement. SDTC will suspend the approval of new projects and will not be accepting new applications until the implementation process is completed, which we anticipate will be by year end. Otherwise, regular business operations will continue, including the dispersal of funds for all existing projects in our portfolio in accordance with companies' contribution agreements.
Francois-Philippe Champagne released a statement in response to the report, which was suspiciously inconsistent with the predicted reaction of Doug McConnachie. Today, the Honourable Francois-Philippe Champagne, Minister of Innovation, Science and Industry, issued the following statement, quote, earlier this year, my department, Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada, or ISED, was made aware of allegations of mismanagement at Sustainable Development Technologies Canada, or SDTC. ISED immediately decided to conduct a fact-finding exercise through an impartial third party. Last week, I received the report prepared by this third party, Raymond Chabot Grant Thornton, or RCGT. The fact-finding report identified a number of instances in which SDTC was not in full compliance with the contribution agreement made with ISED. It also identified opportunities for improvement in other areas not covered by the contribution agreement and outside of the scope of intervention for ISED, including human resources, governance, and oversight. I take these findings seriously, and that's why we are taking the following immediate corrective actions. SDTC has received a detailed management response and action plan to address the issues identified in the report, which I expect will be implemented no later than December 31st, 2023. ISED has requested the temporary suspension of funding for all new projects until the corrective measures are in place, and ISED is exploring further options to strengthen the governance oversight of SDTC, and I will be providing further direction on this matter soon. As this process continues, we will continue to monitor the situation because our government holds all organizations that receive federal funding to the highest of standards, end quote. Let's just rewind to what Doug McConaughey told the whistleblowers about what Minister Champagne's reaction would have been.
The minister is going to flip out when he hears the stuff, and he's going to want an extreme reaction, like shut it all down. No, it's unlikely that certain members of the board or the entire board and executive are going to be able to continue to serve. Like, they've kind of lost the confidence. So really the discussion will be the mechanisms for getting them out.
Champagne had reacted in a completely opposite manner of what Doug McConaughey had predicted. Why? Was there something more to this? Was there something Champagne was hiding?
It sure seems that way, because right after the report was released, the whistleblowers requested a copy of it and were subsequently denied by the Minister Champagne's office. Instead, they were told that they needed to file an access to information request, despite the fact that this whole ordeal and this report was only initiated as a result of their original complaint almost a year prior.
On October 4th, 2023, Michael Barrett and the Conservatives had enough and decided to take action and order a committee investigation.
So I have two things that I'd like to address while I have the floor. The first comes in the context of media reports this week and with the backdrop of the cost of living crisis that's facing Canadians. We learned that a $1 billion government program has had serious questions raised by whistleblowers about $38 million of that spending. And that's just what's been revealed so far, obviously, through these whistleblower accounts that have been reported on in the media. This is, again, with the backdrop of this cost of living crisis, this national debt that's growing at a record pace, inflation at 40-year highs. We have Canadians who are facing mortgage payments, rent payments that have doubled over the last 8 years. Food price inflation is driving record food bank use. 7 million Canadians using the food bank. A third of those food bank users are children. And Canadians need to know that the public purse is being properly tended to and that every dollar is being accounted for. And so I have a motion that I would like to give notice of, that pursuant to Standing Order 1083 and in light of the new information revealed through whistleblower complaints regarding the $1 billion fund awarded by the government to Sustainable Development Technologies Canada to deliver taxpayer money to the green tech sector, the committee dedicates 6 meetings to this matter and hear testimony from the Minister of Innovation, Science and Industry of Canada, the Minister of Environment, Minister of Finance, and the committee ordered the government to produce all documents related to this program, including emails, briefing notes, text messages, contracts, funding agreements, memorandums of understanding, and any other documents that the government has related to this program. So that's what I'd like to put on notice.
Back in August, the whistleblowers decided to start recording conversations with government officials. They didn't trust the Department of Innovation, Science, and Economic Development. They didn't trust Minister Francois-Philippe Champagne. They wanted insurance, and it looked like they were going to need it.